Just over 11 years ago, we were introduced to Representative Trey Gowdy from South Carolina's 4th Congressional District when he got up on the floor of the House to defend the Enforce the Law Act. He gave a beautiful just over 5 minute speech, basically entitled We Make Law. And it was all about how the Obama administration was just bypassing Congress. They weren't he wasn't doing his job as the chief executive. He wasn't enforcing the law that Congress passed and that the Supreme Court even upheld. So why am I bringing this up? Well, because we're in a similar case with judges today. We all know that there are federal judges all over the country who seem to have their own opinions about how the country should work, who obviously want to be president themselves, who completely despise President Trump and his agenda, and have decided to take it upon themselves to dictate the way law will work here in this country. So, as Trey Gowdy asked 11 years ago, where is our power of enforcement? Where is our power to force these judges to obey the law? Where is our power to enforce these judges to listen to the Supreme Court? Because for the most part, it's all basically a gentleman's agreement. And that's because the judicial branch has very little enforcement power, even in its own branch. It is true that I make this video based mostly off of the New Hampshire judge's decision to certify the class and allow unborn children who are already deemed not to be eligible members of a class by Roe v. Wade, which is still good law in that aspect. One of the rules of federal civil procedure, Rule 23, clearly says that a class action is only to be used if it's the best way to achieve justice. In this case, it isn't. So how do the people, how does Congress, how does the executive, how does the Supreme Court force judges to listen to it? Well, there's a couple ways. The first is quite obvious, and it's why I have this picture up. Impeachment. Not only the president or vice president can be impeached, but civil officers. Federal judges are civil officers. They can be impeached. It's not very common. In fact, it's only happened 18 times, I believe, with only 8 of them actually being removed from office. So what's the other ways? Well, you can always have chief judges. Each circuit has a chief judge, a judge whose job is basically to oversee the circuit and make sure that it's doing its job correctly. That chief judge can always issue punishment in a manner of like censoring the judge. They can adjust duties. One informal thing they can always do is they can basically, and this is usually applied to older judges, they can basically tell that judge, hey, I think you should probably resign soon. The other form of punishment is the Judicial Conduct and Disability Act. It basically allows for anyone to file a complaint against a judge. The problem is that those complaints are really only listened to if they involve actual examples of bias. And if it involves basically just having an issue with the way a judge ruled or anything like that, then they're basically just thrown out because judges are given great deference to their decision making. Some sanctions that can happen out of this are you can either be privately or publicly censured. You can have your cases reassigned. And if it's bad enough, you can actually be referred to the judicial conference, which can then decide should we refer this to Congress for impeachment? Again, it doesn't happen a lot. So all this to be said, there's really currently not really anything the Supreme Court or Congress can do outside of impeachment or outside of just kind of wagging their fingers in their next appeal. Honestly, I think that the best way to prevent legislative bias or to curtail legislating from the bench would be to have the Senate understand what their role is and to be better stewards of the people that they elevate to those benches. Guys, thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget to comment below. Let me know what you think. Are judges way out of control? Is this an example of just a few judges who just want more power? Like, what do y'all think? Let me know.